What if the first murderer in history sparked a legacy that shaped civilization? Cain, the son of Adam and Eve, didn't just take a life. He birthed a lineage that built cities, forged weapons, and created music, all while drifting further from God. Their story, buried in the opening pages of Genesis, is a haunting mix of brilliance and rebellion, ending in a flood that couldn't erase their mark. Are you ready to uncover the rise and fall of Cain's descendants, and what their story means for us today? In the shadow of Eden, where the world was still raw and new, a single act of violence changed everything. Cain, the firstborn of Adam and Eve, stood before God with an offering, his heart burning with envy as his brother Abel's gift was accepted and his own rejected. In a moment of rage, Cain struck Abel down, spilling the first blood on the earth. This wasn't just a crime. It was a wound in the fabric of humanity, a crack that let sin seep deeper into the world. God's judgment was swift. The ground would no longer yield to Cain, and he would wander restless, forever marked by his guilt. Yet in a twist of divine mercy, God placed a mark on him, not to curse but to protect, ensuring no one would take his life. Exiled to the land of Nod, east of Eden, Cain's story could have ended, but it was only the beginning. Cain didn't just survive, he built. He fathered a son, Enoch, and in his honor raised a city, the first in human history. This wasn't just bricks and walls, it was a defiance of his curse, a refusal to be a wanderer. From this act, a lineage was born, one that would shape the ancient world with stunning achievements and heartbreaking rebellion. Cain's descendants weren't just a family, they were a force, their talents blazing like fire, their sins darkening the earth. This is the story of their rise, their fall, and the haunting question, can genius survive without grace? The birth of a cursed lineage. What if the first city was built on defiance? Cain, marked and exiled, refused to fade into the wilderness. In the land of Nod, he became a father and a builder. His son Enoch carried his name, and the city named after him stood as a monument to human will. But this wasn't a place of worship or humility. It was a declaration of independence from God. Cain's lineage grew from this seed, each generation marked by pride and ambition. From Enoch came Irad, then Mehujael, Methusael, and finally Lamech, a man whose name would echo with arrogance and violence. Jewish traditions, like the Book of Jubilees, try to fill the gaps in this sparse genealogy, painting a picture of a people who advanced culture but drifted further from the Creator. Their story isn't just about names, it's about a path chosen, a road that led away from redemption. The Bible doesn't hide their brilliance, but it warns of their downfall. With each generation, sin took deeper root, twisting their gifts into tools of pride and destruction. Cain's act of murder wasn't at the end. It was the spark that set his lineage ablaze, a fire that would burn until the flood. Lamech's Song of Vengeance. What if one man's pride could outshine even Cain's sin? Lamech, Cain's great-great-grandson, stands as the pinnacle of this rebellion. He broke God's design by taking two wives, Adah and Zillah, defying the sacred union of one man and one woman. But it is his chilling song in Genesis 4:23-24 that reveals his heart. Listen to me, wives of Lamech. I have killed a man for wounding me, a young man for injuring me. If Cain is avenged 7 times, then Lamech 77 times. These words aren't just poetry. They're a boast, a declaration of vengeance far beyond God's justice for Cain. Lamech doesn't seek forgiveness. He revels in his power, claiming a retribution that dwarfs divine mercy. Some Jewish traditions whisper that Lamech may have killed Cain himself, mistaking him for an animal in a hunt. The Bible doesn't confirm this, but the story lingers, a shadow of the violence that defined Cain's line. Lamech's song isn't a cry for justice, it's a celebration of self, a man drunk on his own strength. His words echo the danger of a heart untethered from God, where talent becomes arrogance and power becomes a god of its own. Lamech's story is a warning. When we turn from the Creator, even our greatest gifts can lead to ruin. The genius of Cain's sons. What if the descendants of a murderer gave the world its first music and weapons? Lamech's 3 sons, Jabal, Jubal, and Tubal-Cain, were pioneers, their innovations shaping humanity. Jabal, the eldest, became the father of those who live in tents and raise livestock. His nomadic lifestyle laid the foundation for the pastoral ways of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, a culture of herding that stretched across centuries. Jubal, his brother, brought music into the world, the father of all who play the harp and flute. His melodies, born from wood or bone, stirred the human soul, proving that even in a fallen line, beauty could emerge. Tubal-Cain, the youngest, mastered metallurgy, forging tools and weapons from bronze and iron. His craft was a revolution, transforming daily life but also birthing the tools of war. These brothers weren't just men. They were architects of civilization. Jabal gave us sustenance, Jubal gave us art, and Tubal-Cain gave us technology. Their gifts were divine, sparks of God's common grace poured out on all humanity, righteous or not. But here's the tragedy. Their brilliance grew in a lineage cut off from God. Their talents, meant to reflect the Creator, became tools of pride and violence. Tubal-Cain's weapons, wielded by his father Lamech, turned mastery into murder. Jubal's music, which could have praised God, echoed Lamech's boastful song. Jabal's herd sustained a people who worshipped themselves. Their story shows that genius without guidance is a flame that can burn the world. The shadow of the Watchers. What if angels themselves joined the rebellion? The Book of Enoch, an ancient text, tells a darker chapter of Cain's lineage. It speaks of the sons of God, celestial beings called Watchers, who were meant to guide humanity. Instead, they fell, seduced by the daughters of men, possibly from Cain's line. These forbidden unions birthed the Nephilim, giants whose strength and corruption shook the earth. The Watchers didn't just marry, they taught forbidden arts, warfare, sorcery, astrology. Their knowledge wasn't a gift. It was a curse, twisting humanity's heart further from God. This wasn't just a mingling of lines, it was a cosmic rebellion. The Watchers' actions, combined with the moral decay of Cain's descendants, filled the earth with violence. Genesis 6:5 says, "The Lord saw how great the wickedness of the human race had become on the earth, and that every inclination of the thoughts of the human heart was only evil all the time." The world, saturated with sin, could no longer stand. The flood was coming, not just as judgment, but as a mercy to stop the spiral of depravity. Yet, even in this darkness, God's plan held firm. He saw the rebellion, the corruption, the betrayal, but he also saw a remnant. The rise of Seth's line. What if hope could rise from ashes? After Abel's death and Cain's exile, Adam and Eve were given Seth, a son whose name means appointed. He was a gift, a new beginning. Unlike Cain's line, Seth's descendants turned toward God. Genesis 4:26 says that in the days of Enoch, Seth's son, people began to call on the name of the Lord. This was a shift, a return to faith in a world sinking into darkness. Seth's line carried names like Enoch, who walked with God, and Methuselah, a symbol of divine patience. Their legacy wasn't in cities or weapons, but in reverence, a quiet faithfulness that stood in stark contrast to Cain's rebellion. This lineage led to Noah, a man described as righteous and blameless. Noah wasn't perfect, but he walked with God, chosen to carry humanity through the flood. His story is a bridge between a corrupted world and a new chance. While Cain's descendants built empires of pride, Seth's line built a legacy of faith, proving that even in the darkest times, God preserves a remnant. Noah's ark wasn't just wood and pitch, it was hope. A vessel of salvation in a world drowning in sin. The flood and the covenant. What if the end was also a beginning? The flood wasn't just destruction, it was a reset. Genesis paints a world so corrupt that the earth was filled with violence. Genesis 6:11. Cain's lineage, with its brilliance and rebellion, had spread sin like a stain. The Watcher's corruption pushed humanity to the brink. God's judgment was inevitable, but his mercy was unstoppable. He spared Noah and his family, a remnant chosen not for perfection, but for faith. The ark carried them through the waters, a symbol of grace amidst wrath. When the waters receded, God made a covenant with Noah, sealed with a rainbow. He promised never again to destroy the earth with a flood, a sign of his enduring love. But this covenant pointed to something greater, a Redeemer who would come to heal what Cain's sin had broken. The flood ended Cain's lineage, but their contributions didn't vanish. Livestock herding, music, metallurgy, These gifts of human ingenuity survived, passed down through oral traditions or rediscovered in the New World. God doesn't despise his gifts, even when they're misused. But he calls us to use them with reverence, to align our talents with his will. The lesson of Cain's legacy. What if our gifts could destroy us? Cain's descendants show the double-edged nature of human potential. Jabal's herds, Jubal's music, Tubal-Cain's metals. They were divine blessings, sparks of God's image in humanity. But without God, they became tools of pride and violence. Lamech's song, sung to the tune of Jubal's instruments, celebrated murder. Tubal-Cain's weapons empowered Lamech's vengeance. Jabal's nomadic life sustained a people who forgot their creator. Their story is a mirror reflecting our own world. We build, create, innovate, but for whom? Our gifts can lift up or tear down, depending on the heart behind them. This is the heart of Cain's legacy. Talent without reverence leads to ruin. Christian theology calls this common grace, God's goodness poured out on all, righteous or not. Jabal, Jubal, and Tubal-Cain didn't know God, but they carried his gifts. Yet, without his guidance, their brilliance fueled destruction. Lamech's arrogance, armed with Tubal-Cain's weapons, shows what happens when power outruns wisdom. It's a warning for us today. Our achievements, our art, our technology, they're gifts, but they carry responsibility. Whom do they serve? What story do they tell? A call to redemption. What if Cain's story is also yours? Cain's lineage didn't end in despair. It pointed to a greater hope. The flood washed away their rebellion, but God's mercy preserved a remnant. Noah's faith carried humanity forward, paving the way for a Redeemer who would conquer sin itself. Jesus, the one who fulfilled God's will where Cain failed, offers a new beginning. He doesn't just judge, he restores, calling us back to the Creator we've drifted from. Cain's story is tragic, but it's not the end. His descendants built a world of beauty and power, but they lost their way. Their legacy warns us to guard our hearts, to use our gifts for good, to seek the God who sees every step we take. It's an invitation to turn back, to choose faith over pride, grace over vengeance. The rainbow over Noah's Ark is a promise that God's love endures, even when we fail. It's a call to live differently, to let our talents shine for the one who gave them. The echoes of a lost lineage. The descendants of Cain are gone, swept away by the flood. But their story lingers, a haunting reminder of what we can become, brilliant yet broken, gifted yet lost. Their music still echoes in our songs, their tools in our technology, their herds in our sustenance. But their rebellion warns us. Without God, our greatest achievements can lead to ruin. The flood was a judgment, but it was also a mercy, clearing the way for a new start. Noah's faith, Seth's reverence, Christ's redemption, they show us the path back to the Creator. What do your gifts say about you? Are they building a city of pride like Cain's, or a legacy of faith like Seth's? The story of Cain's lineage isn't just ancient history. It is a question for today. How will you use what you've been given? Will you let pride lead you to nod, or will you walk with God? The choice is yours, and the Creator is watching, ready to guide you home. Comment below. What does Cain's story stir in you? Write, "I choose grace," if you're ready to use your gifts for good. Share this story to remind others of the power and peril of our choices, and subscribe to keep uncovering the truths hidden in Scripture. Cain's legacy is a warning, but it's also a call to redemption, to purpose, to a life that echoes God's love.